What if the bond between brothers, once strong enough to withstand the grief of a nation, shattered not with a scream, but with silence? What if that silence carried with it a royal decree more devastating than any public scandal? A silent purge, etched not in tabloids, but in royal records that could soon erase one brother from the very bloodline he was born into. That's the whispered reality that now circles Buckingham Palace like a storm cloud that refuses to break. Prince Harry, once the spirited second son walking dutifully behind his brother in the long shadow of monarchy, is reportedly at risk of being written out entirely from its future. Not merely pushed to the periphery, not simply excluded from ceremonial duties, erased. No title, no return, no trace. And the architect of this impending exile? His own flesh and blood, Prince William. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. This isn't the stuff of royal fanfiction. The source is Rob Shuter, a veteran British journalist known for his high-placed connections and willingness to voice what others dare only whisper. In a recent newsletter, he didn't just speculate, he declared, Prince William, according to Shuter's insider revelations, has privately committed to ensuring that when he ascends the throne, his younger brother will be stripped of all royal titles. Duke of Sussex? Gone. The HRH style, already suspended, permanently revoked. No ceremonial acknowledgements. No roles in Commonwealth causes. Not even the quiet dignity of a footnote in the monarchy's public affairs. In William's vision of the future crown, there will be no Harry. For those who followed the saga of the House of Windsor, this isn't just another chapter of sibling rivalry. It's a declaration of war dressed in silence. And for Prince Harry, who despite all the public rifts, reportedly harbored hopes of reconciliation, this latest revelation wasn't just painful, it broke something inside him. According to close sources, the moment he heard of William's plans, Harry didn't rage. He didn't lash out. He cried. This is not a story about two privileged men squabbling over titles. This is a story about identity, betrayal, legacy, and the invisible weight of a crown that crushes more than it uplifts. It is the story of a monarchy attempting to navigate modernity, wielding ancient tools of exclusion and tradition, even when it means turning against one of its own. And it is the story of a man who, after sacrificing comfort and country for love and conscience, now finds himself orphaned by blood. To understand the gravity of this moment, we need to rewind the clock. We need to examine the journey of these two brothers, raised in the same palace yet forged by different fires. We need to revisit the bond once so apparent that they finished each other's sentences and shared everything from sorrow to schoolyard pranks. And we need to interrogate what broke it. Not just Meghan, not just media pressure, but deeper forces, duty, fear, inheritance, and unresolved grief that was never properly mourned. In the wake of Queen Elizabeth II's passing, the monarchy stood at a crossroads. King Charles III, a man often torn between his roles as father and sovereign, extended an olive branch in his first address. He expressed love for Harry and Meghan, naming them directly, hoping to set a tone of healing. But even then, William remained stoic, silent. If his father extended the branch, William, now Prince of Wales and heir apparent, never reached for it. Behind palace walls, William was allegedly already drafting his blueprint for the future, a vision of a streamlined monarchy. And to streamline means to cut. Gone are the days when royals lived bloated lives of ceremonial redundancy. William reportedly sees the monarchy as a lean machine, built on duty and loyalty. In that machine, there is no place for defectors. Harry, having not only left but publicly criticized the institution and its practices, from racism to emotional neglect, is no longer seen as merely wayward. He is seen as a liability. But does this view account for brotherhood? For shared trauma? For the image of two boys walking behind their mother's coffin, linked not just by blood, but by a loss few can comprehend? Some royal insiders argue that William is not acting out of revenge, but preservation. That to maintain the monarchy's relevance, he must make difficult, even cruel decisions. Others believe this is deeply personal. That the betrayal William felt after the Oprah interview, after the Netflix series, and after Harry's memoir Spare, hardened something inside him. That each time Harry spoke, William heard not truth, but treason. And yet, others say this is Harry's final test. That even in the face of such rejection, he still wants to find a way back, not to titles, but to family. Friends close to him suggest he still hopes for a call, a letter, even a word from William. A gesture that says, "I remember us before all this." But that gesture may never come. According to Rob Shooter's source, William's plans are not emotional whims. They are calculated, mapped out, and intended to be enacted upon his eventual coronation. He wants to cement the monarchy as a tight circle, trusted, loyal, and undivided. Harry, in William's view, made his choice. He left. He told the world his truth. And now, the crown will tell its own. So when Harry learned of this plan, the reaction was not anger. It was grief. Real, deep, sobbing grief. Because what he heard wasn't just a strategy, it was a death knell. Not of his title, but of any future with the family that raised him. We live in a world where headlines flash and fade, where every week brings a new scandal, a new feud, a new clickbait. But some stories stay with us. They echo because they touch something universally human. The fear of being disowned, the longing to belong, the hope that even after we walk away, someone still leaves the door open. That is the story, and it's far from over. Before they were heirs, dukes, or media headlines, they were simply William and Harry, two boys bound by more than blood, wrapped in the quiet sadness of a palace that rarely made room for vulnerability. For most of the world, the enduring image of their childhood is the one etched into public memory. Two small figures in black suits walking side by side behind a coffin. They weren't just mourning their mother, Princess Diana. They were anchoring a nation's grief, becoming symbols of strength when they had every right to fall apart. The tragedy of Diana's death didn't just reshape the monarchy's relationship with the public. It forged an unbreakable alliance between her sons. William, the older, felt the early pull of duty. Even as a teenager, he knew he would one day be king. And Harry, wild-hearted and quick to smile, served as his brother's shadow, loyal, mischievous, and above all, loving. In the quiet corners of Kensington Palace and during holidays to Balmoral, they confided in each other with the kind of honesty only tragedy can foster. They were each other's constant. Those early years painted a picture the public couldn't get enough of. William and Harry played polo together, appeared in school events side by side, and often spoke of their closeness in interviews. Journalists described them as two halves of a whole, William the steady hand, Harry the emotional compass. In every major milestone, from Sandhurst to royal tours, Harry was there, shoulder to shoulder with his brother. When William began dating Kate Middleton, it was Harry who referred to her as the sister I never had, offering his full support and often serving as the third wheel during their public outings. There was no indication, at least on the surface, that cracks were forming beneath their shared smiles. But behind the scenes, the expectations laid on William as the heir were vastly different from those placed on Harry as the spare. William was groomed from birth, his life measured in protocols, briefings, and carefully choreographed appearances. Harry, meanwhile, floated in a less defined role. He was royal, yes, but without the weight of direct succession, he found himself caught in a loop of purpose-seeking, drifting between army service, charity work, and moments of high-profile controversy. Still, through it all, the brothers held firm. Even as Harry stumbled through tabloid scrutiny, from questionable costume choices at parties to scuffles with paparazzi, William rarely spoke ill of him. Sources inside the palace would often remark that William acted like a protective older brother even when Harry embarrassed the institution. To William, Harry was family first, flawed but forgivable. The military years proved particularly bonding for the two. Both William and Harry chose to serve, not out of necessity, but out of a sense of obligation to their country. William flew helicopters in the Royal Air Force, while Harry took a far more daring route, deploying to Afghanistan, earning the respect of fellow soldiers and experiencing combat firsthand. The shared ethos of service once again linked them. It was a chapter that seemed to bring depth and maturity to their connection, grounding their public roles in real sacrifice. When the Queen celebrated her Diamond Jubilee in 2012, it was no coincidence that both William and Harry played central roles in the celebrations. They stood with pride, united in their lineage. And when their grandfather, Prince Philip, fell ill during the celebrations, it was Harry who held back tears, and William who offered a comforting hand. These weren't performances. These were brothers, raw, unfiltered, human. Privately, they were each other's counselors. William once admitted in a rare off-camera remark that there was no one else he could speak to about their unique experience except Harry. "It's like a club," he said, "and there are only 2 members." That quote, uttered so casually, now feels loaded with irony, a club that may no longer exist. Many point to the moments in 2017, the 20th anniversary of Diana's death, as the last time the brothers appeared truly close. They commissioned a statue together, participated in interviews reflecting on her legacy, and seemed united in their desire to uphold her humanitarian spirit. In one particularly moving interview, Harry recalled how William encouraged him to seek therapy, breaking the royal taboo around mental health. "It was William," Harry said, "who told me I needed help." That level of trust, of fraternal vulnerability, is rare anywhere, let alone under the scrutiny of royal life. But what the public didn't see, or perhaps refused to acknowledge, was the growing pressure bubbling beneath the surface. As William's path toward kingship became more defined, Harry's place in the monarchy grew increasingly vague. No one could quite answer what Harry's long-term role was supposed to be. Was he a support act to William and Kate? A roving ambassador for royal causes? A glorified spokesman for charitable initiatives? Every path seemed to lead back to a role in someone else's story, never his own. That internal conflict, unspoken for years, was reportedly the first invisible wedge that separated them. Not a single event, but 1,000 tiny cracks. Frustrations, miscommunications, and unvoiced resentments, all quietly accumulating. And even then, Harry did what he always had. He leaned on his brother. But as fate would have it, Harry's attempt to build his own identity outside the royal script, particularly through his relationship with Meghan Markle, introduced a foreign element into their once intimate brotherhood. Some insiders claim William viewed Meghan as a threat, not necessarily because of who she was, but because of how swiftly she shifted Harry's priorities. Suddenly, the man who had always followed was forging his own direction, one that no longer revolved around William, the crown, or Britain. Still, none of this was visible to the public just yet. When Harry married Meghan in 2018, William stood as best man. Their bond, though tested, still held, at least outwardly. But as history often proves, some of the most permanent fractures begin in silence. And in this case, the silence between William and Harry was starting to stretch longer than anyone imagined possible. What makes this chapter so important is not simply nostalgia. It's the understanding that what is being lost now, with the threat of erasure, of titles being stripped, of brotherhood being undone, is not abstract. It is the undoing of decades of shared memory, of bedtime talks in palace nurseries, of whispered confessions about love and loss, of mutual dreams and private jokes that only siblings carry. So when we hear that William now reportedly wishes to write Harry out of the monarchy's future, it is not the action of a stranger. It is the decision of someone who once promised, perhaps silently, perhaps as a child, to always be there. That betrayal, if true, isn't political. It is personal. In the end, the story of William and Harry is not just about royal duty, titles, or public opinion. It is the story of 2 boys who faced a devastating loss together, and somehow, in the course of trying to heal, found themselves losing each other too. The royal family, steeped in centuries of tradition, has always lived under the spotlight, but few storms in recent history have been as turbulent as the arrival of Meghan Markle into the royal fold. To many, Meghan represented a fresh, modern breath of air, an American actress, a woman of mixed race, bringing a new dynamic to an ancient institution. To others, her presence was unsettling, a challenge to long-held norms and unspoken rules. For William and Harry, Meghan's arrival was a turning point that neither could have fully anticipated. Harry, deeply in love, saw in Meghan not just a partner, but an ally, someone who understood his struggles with royal life and media intrusion. William, meanwhile, reportedly approached Meghan with caution. Behind closed doors, some palace insiders say William's reservations were rooted in genuine concern for his brother's well-being and the stability of the monarchy. But those concerns, amplified by the relentless media and palace gossip, quickly morphed into tension. The British tabloids, infamous for their unforgiving coverage of royal affairs, seized on Meghan with a vengeance. Headlines questioned her motives, her background, and even her character. Stories range from alleged rifts with staff to accusations of entitlement. Some tabloids painted Meghan as a disruptive force, while others portrayed her as a victim of systemic racism within the palace. The media frenzy not only impacted Meghan's public image, but also rippled through the royal family's internal dynamics. William, as the heir apparent, was caught between protecting the monarchy's image and managing family relationships. According to multiple reports, he grew frustrated with what he saw as Meghan's influence on Harry, believing it pushed his brother to make reckless decisions. William's circle allegedly viewed Meghan's presence as a catalyst for Harry's growing estrangement, exacerbating tensions that had simmered under the surface for years. Harry, on the other hand, felt misunderstood and isolated. His bond with Meghan offered a new source of strength, but also introduced a wedge between him and William. Some insiders recall moments when Harry defended Meghan fiercely, even at the cost of his relationship with his brother. Their conversations became more guarded, and the once open channel between the siblings started to close. The situation was further complicated by contrasting communication styles and expectations. William, raised as the future king, embodied a more traditional, measured approach. Harry, increasingly outspoken and emotionally candid, was moving toward a break from convention. This divergence made reconciliation harder, as each brother's priorities and perspectives grew more distant. In the midst of this, Meghan found herself navigating a royal landscape that was often hostile and unforgiving. The pressures of public scrutiny and palace protocols took a toll on her mental health. Harry's own struggles with anxiety and depression, already intense, deepened as he tried to protect his wife and their growing family. Their decision to step back from royal duties in 2020 was, in part, a response to these overwhelming pressures. William's reaction to Megxit, the media-coined term for Harry and Meghan's royal exit, was reportedly one of anger and disbelief. Some insiders suggest he felt betrayed, interpreting their departure as a rejection not just of royal duty, but of family ties. Private conversations became strained, with little dialogue and mounting distance. This chapter of their story also saw the rise of social media's role in amplifying royal disputes. Tweets, Instagram posts, and public statements became battlegrounds, with fans and critics alike weighing in, often with harsh judgment. The digital age transformed private family disagreements into global spectacles, making reconciliation more complex and fragile. Despite these growing tensions, it's important to remember that the brothers' relationship was not entirely severed. There were moments of attempted contact, gestures of goodwill, and hopes expressed by both sides for healing. But the path was fraught with misunderstandings, hurt feelings, and the weight of external forces that neither brother could fully control. The wedge between William and Harry, while often attributed solely to Meghan's presence, was in reality the culmination of years of unresolved grief, differing visions for the monarchy, and the relentless pressures of living life in the public eye. Meghan's arrival was a catalyst, not the sole cause. As this chapter closed, the brothers found themselves on opposite sides of a growing divide, a divide that would soon lead to public confrontations, personal heartbreak, and decisions that no family should have to face. The announcement that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle would step back from their senior royal roles sent shockwaves throughout the United Kingdom and the world. The term Megxit, coined by the media, captured the dramatic nature of the departure, but it masked a far deeper and more complicated reality, a rupture in the royal family unlike anything seen in modern times. When Harry and Meghan declared their intention to live independently of the monarchy, it wasn't just a personal choice. It was a seismic challenge to the institution's image, stability, and future. For Prince William, this decision was deeply unsettling. As the future king, William saw the monarchy as a centuries-old legacy that depended on loyalty, unity, and public trust. His brother's step away from these traditions was perceived by some in his circle as a betrayal that threatened that very foundation. William's reaction to the announcement was reportedly a complex mix of shock, anger, and disappointment. Sources close to him say he felt blindsided, not only by the decision but by the way it was communicated. Harry and Meghan had reportedly discussed their plans with their father, King Charles, but their conversations with William were less clear, leading to feelings of exclusion and hurt. This lack of transparency fueled suspicion and widened the divide. The immediate aftermath was a flurry of public statements, palace briefings, and media speculation. The royal family emphasized respect and understanding but offered little detail, reflecting the internal tension and uncertainty. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan moved quickly to establish their new lives abroad, FOC. For William, this period was marked by a growing sense of responsibility to protect the monarchy from further damage. The potential for public scandal, loss of reputation, and financial strain weighed heavily on him. Those close to William described his focus as intensely pragmatic, determined to stabilize the institution even if it meant distancing himself from his brother. The media narrative around Megxit often portrayed a rift between two brothers growing ever wider, with the public caught in the crossfire. William was seen as the protector of tradition, Harry as the rebellious son seeking freedom. This oversimplification ignored the nuances. William's genuine concern for duty and legacy, Harry's struggles with identity and mental health, and the pressures both faced from relentless scrutiny. Behind closed doors, the situation grew more fraught. Harry reportedly felt abandoned and misunderstood, believing that the palace had turned its back on him and Meghan. The withdrawal from royal life was not just a physical separation, but a symbolic break from a system he felt trapped by. At the same time, William grappled with the personal pain of seeing his brother become a public adversary rather than an ally. Financial considerations also entered the picture. Harry and Meghan's decision to step back meant forfeiting public funds, leading them to seek private income through deals with streaming services and other ventures. This commercialization of royal connections was controversial within the family and among the public, further complicating perceptions. The tension culminated in public statements and interviews that made private grievances very public. Harry and Meghan's candid discussions about their experiences, especially their allegations of racism and lack of support within the royal family, were met with official denials and defensive responses. William, in particular, was drawn into the fray, expected to defend the institution while managing personal pain. These clashes weren't just about policy or image. They were emotional battles, where feelings of betrayal, hurt, and love intersected. For William and Harry, every statement, every gesture, every silence carried weight and meaning. The royal exit was more than a headline. It was a fracture in a family's foundation. Despite this, there were signs that the brothers sought some form of reconciliation. Attempts at private meetings, mediated conversations, and family interventions were reported, though none seemed to break through the growing wall. The emotional distance was compounded by physical distance, with Harry living in California and William anchored in the UK. This chapter of royal history is a study in contrasts: loyalty versus independence, tradition versus change, duty versus personal happiness. It laid bare the immense pressures faced by those born into royalty and the painful costs of forging a path outside its confines. For William, the royal exit was a call to arms, to protect what he saw as the crown's legacy, even if it meant hard choices and personal sacrifice. For Harry, it was a declaration of freedom tinged with loss, a break that allowed him to live on his own terms, but at great emotional cost. As the fallout from Megxit continued, the family's private struggles became public spectacle, foreshadowing deeper conflicts that would soon emerge. The fallout was not just a chapter in royal history. It was the prelude to a reckoning that could redefine monarchy itself. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle sat down with Oprah Winfrey in March 2021, the world watched, riveted by what many called the most explosive royal interview in decades. What was meant to be a moment of personal truth-telling became a seismic event shaking the very foundations of the British monarchy. For Harry, the interview was an opportunity to finally speak openly about the pain and challenges that had shadowed his life for years: grief, isolation, mental health struggles, and the suffocating pressures of royal life. Meghan, too, revealed her battles with racism, the lack of support within the institution, and the toll it had taken on her well-being. William's response to the interview was swift, if measured. While King Charles and Queen Camilla released statements expressing sadness and a desire for healing, William remained notably silent publicly. Privately, insiders say he was furious, believing that his brother had broken the royal code by airing family grievances in such a public and uncompromising way. One of the most controversial revelations was the claim that there had been conversations within the royal family about concerns over the skin color of Harry and Meghan's unborn child. This allegation sparked intense debate and brought accusations of racism to the forefront of discussions about the monarchy. William, reportedly, vehemently denied any such conversations took place and stressed that we are very much not a racist family. The interview's fallout was immediate and profound. It deepened the public's divide, some viewing Harry and Meghan as courageous truth-tellers, others as disloyal insiders damaging an institution that had supported them. For William, the stakes were deeply personal. His brother had not only criticized the monarchy, but also implicated their family's legacy in a global conversation about race and privilege. This was no longer just a family dispute. It was a battle for public perception and historical record. The interview laid bare the tensions between private pain and public duty, between loyalty and self-preservation. The emotional toll on both brothers was palpable. Harry later described the process of preparing for the interview as cathartic yet painful, a reckoning with years of bottled-up anguish. For William, watching his brother's words broadcast worldwide was like a wound reopening, an intimate betrayal made public. At the heart of the interview was the question of belonging. Harry and Meghan's desire to belong, to family, to institution, to country, was met with silence and rejection, they claimed. William, conversely, felt that his brother had chosen to walk away from everything they had shared and was now weaponizing private family matters against them. The aftermath saw a royal family struggling to respond. Public relations efforts intensified, but no amount of messaging could fully repair the damage. The interview became a cultural moment, dissected in media outlets, social commentary, and everyday conversations around the globe. This moment also intensified the divide within the family. Attempts at reconciliation were overshadowed by lingering resentments and unresolved grievances. The brothers' relationship, already fragile, appeared further fractured. The Oprah interview was a turning point, a moment when private family struggles spilled into the global spotlight with full force. It crystallized the rift, raising questions about race, duty, mental health, and the very future of the monarchy. For William, it was a moment of reckoning, forcing him to confront the reality that his brother had become not just distant, but adversarial. For Harry, it was a moment of liberation, speaking his truth despite the personal cost. The interview remains a powerful symbol of the clash between old-world tradition and modern demands for transparency and justice. It's a reminder that even the most enduring institutions can be shaken by the courage of individuals who choose to speak out. And amid it all, the two brothers remain caught between love, loyalty, and a painful legacy that neither can fully escape. Following the shockwaves of the Oprah interview and the formal announcement of stepping back from royal duties, Prince Harry faced an unprecedented challenge, redefining his identity outside the framework of the monarchy. For decades, his life had been shaped by titles, patronages, and ceremonial roles. Now, suddenly, many of those roles were being quietly withdrawn, leaving a void that was impossible to ignore. The process began subtly. Patronages that had once been proudly associated with Harry were reassigned or left dormant. Military honors he once held were quietly rescinded. Invitations to official ceremonies were limited. His presence in official family photographs became sporadic. The monarchy was signaling, through these actions, that Harry was no longer part of the core institution. This gradual erasure was not without precedent. History has seen royals who fell out of favor fade from public life, but in Harry's case, it carried a deeply personal sting. These weren't just official duties. They were touchstones of his identity and his connection to his family's legacy. Each title removed was a reminder of his growing distance from the family he once walked beside. The emotional impact was profound. Friends and confidants described Harry as feeling lost and disconnected. Public appearances became fewer and more guarded. In interviews and speeches, he alluded to feelings of isolation, remarking that sometimes the hardest part of having a public life is feeling utterly alone. His openness about mental health struggles intensified during this period, revealing a man grappling with both personal pain and public scrutiny. Meghan, too, faced her own challenges, but Harry's experience was particularly acute because of his lifelong immersion in royal tradition. Being stripped of roles was not just about duty. It was about losing a piece of himself. Financial independence became a priority. The couple's pursuit of private ventures, from deals with streaming platforms to charitable foundations, was not just entrepreneurial but a necessity. Without the backing of the royal purse, they had to forge a new path, one that balanced public expectations with personal values. Palace insiders say the decision to remove Harry's titles and roles was driven by a desire to clarify the monarchy's future. William, reportedly, advocated for a leaner, more focused royal family, one that would avoid distractions and concentrate on core duties. But this pragmatic approach failed to account for the emotional cost to Harry, who saw these actions as not only strategic but punitive. The media coverage of Harry's frozen-out status was relentless. Headlines spoke of royal exile and family rift, and public opinion was divided. Some sympathized with Harry's plight, seeing a young man unfairly marginalized. Others viewed it as the consequence of choices he made. Despite the pain, Harry sought ways to remain engaged in causes close to his heart. He continued advocating for veterans, mental health awareness, and environmental issues. Yet, without the formal platforms once provided by the monarchy, his voice was sometimes diminished. The physical distance between Harry's new life in California and the royal epicenter in London added another layer of separation. Time zones, geography, and differing lifestyles made connection more difficult, compounding feelings of exclusion. For William, these changes were part of a necessary evolution. The future king saw the monarchy adapting to the 21st century, streamlining roles to maintain relevance. From his perspective, Harry's detachment was a natural consequence of stepping away. Yet, for Harry, the experience was bittersweet. Losing royal roles was not just about titles, but about belonging. The loss deepened the emotional wounds of separation, making reconciliation seem more distant with each passing day. This chapter in Harry's life is a testament to the complexities of identity, legacy, and family ties under the unforgiving gaze of history and media. It reveals the human side of royal protocol, the sacrifices and silences that often go unseen. As Harry navigates this new existence without the roles that once defined him, he confronts not only the challenge of self-reinvention, but also the emotional toll of being, in many ways, frozen out from the world he was born into. Amid the growing distance and public turmoil, the story of Prince William and Prince Harry is punctuated by moments of quiet hope, private gestures that sought to mend a rift which seemed, at times, impossible to bridge. Behind the headlines and media speculation, there existed a series of secret letters, messages, and tentative conversations aimed at healing the fractured brotherhood. Sources close to the family reveal that, following the tumultuous events of Megxit and the Oprah interview, there were several attempts by both sides to reach out. Harry, in particular, is said to have penned heartfelt letters to William, letters that went beyond mere formality or protocol. These messages reportedly conveyed not only remorse for misunderstandings, but also a deep yearning to restore their bond, not as princes, but as brothers. One such letter, according to insiders, was delivered in 2021, shortly after the public fallout from the interview. It was described as raw and honest, with Harry expressing pain over the distance, confusion about the public fallout, and an earnest desire to reconnect. He reportedly acknowledged missteps, but stressed the importance of family above all else. William's response, however, was reportedly cautious. While he did not dismiss the letters outright, he remained guarded, weighed down by his own feelings of hurt and betrayal. Close confidants suggest William found it difficult to reconcile the public accusations with his private memories of shared childhood and loyalty. Trust, once fractured, proved slow to rebuild. The delicate dance of communication extended beyond letters. There were rumors of mediated phone calls, arranged through family intermediaries and mutual friends, aiming to set up in-person meetings. Yet scheduling conflicts, security concerns, and emotional volatility made these encounters challenging to realize. Each attempt was shadowed by fear that conversations would devolve into blame or recrimination. Behind these private efforts were the pressures of public expectation. The monarchy's image hinged on the appearance of unity and strength. For William, admitting to ongoing fractures risked undermining the institution he was preparing to lead. For Harry, continued silence from his brother fed feelings of rejection and isolation. Further complicating matters was the involvement of King Charles III, who reportedly acted as a mediator between his sons. Charles, torn between his roles as father and sovereign, sought to encourage dialogue while balancing competing loyalties. His attempts at diplomacy were met with mixed results. Some insiders believed Charles was earnest in his efforts, while others questioned whether political concerns within the palace diluted his family commitments. Meghan Markle's role in these reconciliation attempts is subject to speculation and controversy. Some palace insiders view her as a protective force for Harry, encouraging him to seek peace, but also standing firm on issues of principle. Others argue that her presence complicated communication channels, adding another layer of tension. Regardless, her support was undeniably crucial to Harry's emotional resilience. The media, meanwhile, eagerly dissected every hint of rapprochement or rupture. Rumors of secret meetings, leaked correspondence, and attempted reconciliations fueled endless speculation. Public opinion oscillated between hope for family healing and skepticism about the sincerity of any outreach. In this web of private pleas and public scrutiny, one truth remains clear. Both brothers, despite their very public differences, showed a desire to reconcile. The letters and calls were evidence that beneath the pain and politics, there was a human yearning for connection. Yet, the barriers were formidable. Years of mistrust, hurtful headlines, and diverging paths made genuine healing elusive. Each brother's sense of betrayal and loyalty was deeply personal, shaped by experiences the other could not fully grasp. This chapter of secret letters and private pleas underscores a timeless truth. Family bonds, no matter how strained, carry a hope for renewal. But it also reveals the heavy price of silence and distance, how easily love can be overshadowed by pride and pain. For Harry and William, these attempts at reconciliation represent fragile bridges over a widening chasm. Whether those bridges will hold remains uncertain, but the desire to connect endures, a poignant undercurrent amid the storm of royal scandal. When King Charles III's coronation was announced, the world prepared to witness a moment steeped in tradition, ceremony, and unity. It was to be a historic day, marking the beginning of a new reign and, many hoped, a new chapter for the royal family. But beneath the pageantry and pomp lay an undercurrent of tension, most palpable in one moment that would soon become emblematic of the brothers' fractured relationship. Prince Harry's presence at the coronation was carefully negotiated. Unlike previous occasions, where Harry might have stood beside his brother, this event saw him attending separately, without Meghan Markle. The reasons cited ranged from security concerns to personal choice, but the outcome was unmistakable. The two brothers were not only physically apart, but emotionally distant. The moment that captivated global attention and sparked countless analyses was the brief interaction between William and Harry during the ceremony. Cameras caught a fleeting glance exchanged between the two, or more accurately, the absence of one. Reports described it as cold, strained, and filled with unspoken words. Neither brother looked directly at the other, a stark contrast to decades of camaraderie. Royal watchers dissected the body language with relentless scrutiny. William's posture was rigid, his gaze focused ahead, avoiding any acknowledgement of Harry. Harry appeared tense, glancing around but never meeting his brother's eyes. Observers interpreted this silence and avoidance as a physical manifestation of years of unresolved pain and conflict. Inside the palace, sources suggest the atmosphere was equally charged. The seating arrangements, always carefully planned, placed the brothers at opposite ends of the room, symbolizing the gulf that had formed. Courtiers whispered about whispered tensions, while family members exchanged guarded glances. For Harry, The coronation was bittersweet. Attending without Meghan, removed from the center of royal life, and surrounded by reminders of the world he left behind, he was confronted with both his past and present. Friends close to him said he wrestled with feelings of exclusion and sorrow, knowing that the very institution he was born into was preparing to move forward without him. William, meanwhile, approached the day with a sense of solemn duty. As the new Prince of Wales and heir apparent, he was tasked with upholding tradition and presenting a united front. Yet the strain of carrying the family's legacy while managing fractured relationships weighed heavily on him. The visible tension with Harry was a source of personal anguish, but one he seemed determined to maintain for the sake of protocol. The coronation ice was more than just a fleeting moment. It was a symbol of a relationship frozen by years of hurt and misunderstanding. For many, it crystallized the reality that reconciliation was no longer imminent but distant, if even possible. Media outlets around the world highlighted the incident, often framing it as the most telling sign of the brothers' estrangement. Commentators debated whether this coldness was permanent or if it could thaw in time. Social media exploded with theories, sympathy, and disappointment, reflecting the public's deep investment in the royal family's story. This event also highlighted the broader challenges facing the monarchy, balancing tradition with modern expectations, managing family dynamics under public scrutiny, and confronting the emotional toll of royal life. For the brothers themselves, the coronation was a stark reminder that the past could not be ignored, no matter how grand the occasion. It showed that royal duty often comes with personal sacrifice, sometimes the sacrifice of family connection. In the weeks and months following the coronation, there was little indication that the ice would melt anytime soon. The ceremony, designed to unite the nation, inadvertently exposed the fractures beneath the surface. Yet, despite the coldness, some close to the family hold hope that time, distance, and shared history might one day soften the divide. For now, though, the coronation remains a poignant emblem of a brotherhood paused, awaiting a moment of warmth that has yet to arrive. In the realm of royal drama, leaks are both weapon and window, fragments of truth or speculation that pierce palace walls and ignite public frenzy. One of the most shocking revelations in recent months came from British journalist Rob Shuter, whose newsletter shook royal watchers worldwide. According to Shuter's insider sources, Prince William has drafted a decisive plan. When he becomes king, Prince Harry will be stripped of all titles and erased from the monarchy's official history. This claim was met with disbelief and horror by many. To imagine a future monarch deliberately disowning his own brother, severing centuries of lineage and legacy, seemed almost unthinkable. Yet, the gravity of the leak lay in its specificity and the source's credibility. Shuter, known for his reliable connections, did not offer vague rumors but detailed accounts of William's intentions, signaling a calculated move rather than an impulsive act. The alleged plan involves removing Harry's ducal title, revoking the HRH style permanently, and excluding him from official royal engagements and records. Such a move would be unprecedented in modern history, a royal ostracism of a family member so close to the throne. The symbolic weight of this is immense. It is not only a legal or ceremonial act, but a statement of exclusion and repudiation. Within palace corridors, the leak sent ripples of unease. Some saw William's plan as a necessary step to preserve the monarchy's image and cohesion, especially after years of public controversies surrounding Harry and Meghan. Others feared it would deepen divisions, alienate the public, and cast a long shadow over the crown's reputation. William's camp reportedly views Harry's actions, stepping back from royal duties, public critiques, and high-profile projects, as betrayals of the institution. To them, allowing Harry to retain titles would undermine the monarchy's authority and open the door to further dissent. This hardline stance reflects William's vision of a streamlined monarchy, focused on loyalty and service without distraction. For Harry and Meghan, the leak was devastating. The idea that William could seek to erase Harry from the monarchy's history cut deeper than headlines or insults. It threatened to erase identity, legacy, and the family bonds that even pain could not fully sever. Close sources describe Harry's reaction as one of profound heartbreak, feeling blindsided and betrayed beyond words. The leak also raised questions about the role of King Charles III in this saga. As father to both men and head of the institution, Charles is caught between personal love and royal duty. Some insiders suggest he is urging caution, advocating for reconciliation and unity. Others argue that Charles understands William's concerns and may acquiesce to such plans if deemed necessary for stability. Public reaction to the leak was immediate and polarized. Social media exploded with support for Harry, accusing William of cruelty and excessive ambition. At the same time, traditional royal supporters emphasized the need for order and discipline within the monarchy, viewing William's plan as a pragmatic step. The legal and constitutional implications of removing Harry's titles are complex. While the sovereign has the authority to grant and revoke royal titles, doing so permanently is rare and fraught with precedent. It would send a clear message about loyalty and consequence, but might also provoke legal challenges and public outcry. Beyond titles, the plan signals a deeper rupture in the royal family, a willingness to cut ties, not only formally but emotionally. It reflects a monarchy struggling to reconcile centuries-old traditions with modern realities and personal betrayals. For William, the alleged plan is about control and legacy. He envisions a monarchy that moves forward, united and unblemished by dissent. For Harry, it is a painful erasure of his place in a family and institution that shaped his life. This chapter in their story marks a critical turning point. It forces a confrontation with questions of forgiveness, power, and the price of loyalty. It challenges the idea that blood alone is enough to bind a family, especially one burdened by the weight of a crown. As the world watches, the leak from Rob Shooter lays bare a family at war with itself, where titles become weapons, history is rewritten, and the future of a monarchy hangs in the balance. News travels fast in royal circles, but when it reached Prince Harry that his own brother, the future king, was plotting to erase him from the monarchy's history, the impact was not just a headline. It was a deeply personal blow. Far from the public eye and beyond the glare of cameras, Harry's reaction was raw, emotional, and profoundly human. Sources close to him describe a moment of silent devastation, where tears flowed not in anger or defiance, but in grief and disbelief. For years, Harry had grappled with feelings of exclusion and misunderstanding within the royal family. The gradual loss of his titles and roles was painful, yes, but this new revelation felt like the ultimate rejection. It was as if the foundation of his identity, intertwined with family and heritage, was being dismantled piece by piece. Close confidants recount that Harry's initial response was shock, an overwhelming sense that the brother he once shared childhood dreams with was now plotting to erase his very existence in the royal narrative. The tears, they say, were not just for himself, but for the loss of family connection and hope. Meghan Markle played a vital role during this difficult time, standing by Harry's side with steadfast support. Insiders say she provided comfort and strength, helping him navigate the emotional turmoil while encouraging him to focus on their shared future and values beyond titles and traditions. The emotional weight of the revelation triggered a period of intense reflection for Harry. Friends describe him as withdrawn, contemplative, and burdened by the complexity of his feelings. Love for his family mixed with the sting of betrayal. It was a moment that underscored the often unseen human cost of royal politics. Despite the heartbreak, Harry's resilience remained. Sources note that he channeled his pain into renewed commitment to his charitable work and family life. He expressed a determination to define his legacy on his own terms, beyond the shadow of titles or royal approval. The leak also brought Harry's long-standing fears into sharper focus. The possibility that his ties to the monarchy could be severed entirely, leaving him and his children disconnected from their heritage. This prospect intensified the emotional strain, highlighting the stakes involved not just for Harry but for future generations. Publicly, Harry maintained a composed front, aware that any display of vulnerability would be scrutinized and possibly politicized. Yet behind closed doors, the tears told a different story, one of a man mourning not just a brother's plan but the brother himself. This chapter reveals the fragile intersection of personal pain and public role, illustrating how royal life can demand stoicism even in moments of profound grief. Harry's tears were a reminder that beneath the pomp and protocol lie real human emotions: love, loss, and longing. The episode also deepened the narrative of two brothers torn apart not by politics alone, but by wounds that run deep and unhealed. It raised questions about forgiveness, reconciliation, and whether family ties can withstand the pressures of legacy and ambition. For Harry, this moment was both an ending and a beginning, a painful acknowledgement of loss, and a catalyst to forge a new path defined by authenticity and self-determination. As the royal saga continues to unfold, the image of Harry's tears remains a poignant symbol of the emotional costs hidden behind the monarchy's public facade, a reminder that even princes are vulnerable to the heartbreak of family estrangement. In the heart of this royal family storm stands King Charles III, a man uniquely positioned, yet painfully torn between the roles of father and monarch. His decades of experience navigating palace politics and public expectation are now challenged by an intimate conflict few outside the royal circle truly grasp: the deep rift between his sons, William and Harry. Charles's relationship with both princes has always been complex. With William, his eldest and heir apparent, he shares a clear line of succession and a shared sense of royal duty that has been cultivated over decades. With Harry, the bond has been more nuanced, marked by moments of warmth, but also distance, as Harry sought his own identity apart from the institution. The revelations of William's alleged plan to erase Harry from the monarchy's history thrust Charles into an agonizing dilemma. As sovereign, he is charged with preserving the integrity and continuity of the crown. As father, he bears the emotional burden of a fractured family, desperate for reconciliation. Sources close to Charles paint a picture of a man caught between competing loyalties. Publicly, he has expressed a desire for unity and healing, often emphasizing family and shared values in speeches and interviews. Privately, however, palace insiders say he struggles with the tension between supporting William's vision for a streamlined monarchy and acknowledging Harry's grievances. This tension manifests in delicate diplomacy. Charles has reportedly urged his sons to set aside differences, encouraging private dialogue and mediated conversations. Yet the depth of mistrust and hurt makes progress slow and uncertain. Some close advisors speculate that Charles fears that overt interference could exacerbate tensions or be perceived as favoritism, further complicating family dynamics. Moreover, King Charles faces pressure from within the institution. Senior courtiers and royal aides emphasize the importance of maintaining a united front to preserve public confidence in the monarchy. They view Harry's departure and continued public criticisms as threats to that unity. Charles must balance these institutional priorities with his personal desire to heal familial wounds. Camilla, the queen consort, also plays a significant role in this dynamic. While supportive of Charles's efforts toward reconciliation, she is said to favor protecting the monarchy's reputation above all else. Her influence may bolster William's approach to handling Harry, advocating for firm boundaries rather than accommodation. Beyond family and institution, Charles is acutely aware of public sentiment. The monarchy's future depends on its ability to adapt to modern expectations while honoring tradition. The brothers' feud, and its public airing, raises challenging questions about transparency, accountability, and relevance. In moments of solitude, Charles reportedly reflects on his own relationship with his father, Prince Philip, and the legacy of duty passed down through generations. He grapples with the irony that, despite his efforts, the family he leads is facing one of its most profound internal crises. This chapter of the story reveals the lonely burden of monarchy, the demand to be both family and symbol, man and institution. For King Charles, every decision is weighed not just in terms of personal consequence, but national impact. His dilemma underscores the human cost behind royal headlines. A father torn between love and duty, seeking a path through fractured loyalties towards some semblance of peace. As the monarchy watches and waits, King Charles's role remains pivotal. His ability to navigate this storm may well determine not only the future of his son's relationship, but the very fate of the crown he now bears. Prince William's alleged plan to strip Prince Harry of his titles and place him on the fringes of the monarchy has sparked fierce debate. Is this a necessary act of leadership, or a deeply personal vendetta disguised as duty. To understand William's motivations, it's crucial to explore the mindset behind his decisions, a blend of royal responsibility, personal hurt, and an unwavering commitment to the institution he is destined to lead. From William's perspective, the monarchy stands at a critical crossroads. The institution, centuries old and laden with tradition, faces unprecedented challenges, from shifting public opinion to intense media scrutiny and evolving societal values. William sees himself as a steward tasked with preserving the crown's relevance and integrity in a rapidly changing world. In this context, William views loyalty and discretion as paramount virtues. Harry's public critiques, the Oprah interview, and the subsequent memoir Spare are seen by William's inner circle as breaches of trust that threaten the monarchy's image. According to insiders, William believes that for the monarchy to survive, it must present a united front, and that includes addressing any dissent within its own ranks decisively. Some close to William argue that his plan to erase Harry's royal titles is not motivated by personal bitterness, but by a pragmatic desire to protect the institution. They assert that William fears that tolerating Harry's actions without consequences would encourage others to challenge royal norms, potentially destabilizing the monarchy. Yet beneath this pragmatic rationale lies a personal dimension. William and Harry shared an intense childhood bond, but years of hurt and misunderstanding have left scars. The public disagreements and private silences have created a gulf that William struggles to bridge. Insiders reveal that William feels deeply wounded by Harry's decisions to break royal protocols and share intimate family details with the world. This emotional complexity complicates William's role as heir apparent. He must balance his love for his brother with his duty to uphold the crown. The tension between these roles manifests in a steely resolve to prioritize the monarchy, even at personal cost. William's camp often frames the decision as one of tough love. They suggest that drawing clear boundaries with Harry is necessary for healing and future reconciliation. Without consequences, they argue, the family risks losing public respect and internal cohesion. Critics, however, view William's actions as vindictive, a brother using power to punish another. They highlight the emotional toll on Harry and question whether such measures deepen divides rather than mend them. The question of whether William's justification is a king's burden or a brother's revenge remains open. It is likely both, a blend of institutional duty and personal pain, intertwined in ways that make simple judgments impossible. This chapter highlights the paradox of royal life, where personal relationships are inseparable from public roles, and where every action carries weight far beyond the individual. William's justification reflects a man shaped by expectation and legacy, forced to make decisions that affect not only his family but the future of a nation. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that leadership in the monarchy is rarely just about policy. It is deeply entwined with emotion, loyalty, and the often painful price of power.